stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you roll call, please?
Councilmember Wallers?
Yes.
Salvi?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Gullickson?
Yes.
Mayor Gay?
Okay, the reading and approval of minute, oh, no, wait. Citizens' comments, anybody here? Whoa. No public hearings today, so now we will move to reading and approval of minutes.
I'll move approval of the regular minutes from our March 8th meeting. I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approval, motion carried. Condensed minute version.
I'll move approval of the condensed version of the minutes.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We got the consent agenda, which is the audit of the city bills, the 2/9/22 library board member minutes, and the gambling reports. I will move approval of those.
I will second.
I should be asking for comments or questions. Any comments, questions on this? Anything on here? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Tim, you'll need to add that addition that Blaine sent you.
Oh, okay.
I should have told you that.
No, yeah, I had it right here. Where would this go? Under
Be under
Ordinances.
ordinance?
ordinances, resolutions C.
C, adding the ratification of the appointment of the Public Works Director.
I'll approve or second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Oh,
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, petitions, requests, and communications, none. So we'll go to ordinance and resolutions. First one, accepting a bid and awarding a contract for the airport taxi lane reconstruction and taxiway crack seal project.
Yeah, so that bid was opened, and this is the first one that we got from Joe Riley Construction. So the engineers looked it over and everything looks good. It's a little bit higher than what the estimate was. And then I put some information in there, how it's cost shared. So our cost share went up a little bit on that, and actually they have to reach out to the state and federal government to make sure that there's enough money in the pot to be able to do this. But the recommendation is to go ahead and accept the bid and award the contract on this one. This was the one, if you remember, we were talking about, there's some additional maintenance money we got that we would apply against this, and then we'll wait and see if anything else comes in that we could maybe apply against this too, but we'll pick up the local share out of our reserves.
Do you, whoops, go ahead.
No. It was considerably higher than the estimate, actually.
Yeah, well, we're in a different world now, so it's gonna be interesting to see how the next bid goes. It's just the nature of, and this is one where they already have the contract, Riley Brothers, have the contract to do the airport runway extension construction this summer. So I think everybody knows what's going on, and so they probably realize that Riley's were going to be the ones that we're going to take a look at this one, and there was a couple other companies that took plans but did not bid on it.
Was this the only bid we received?
We got one bid on it. Yep.
Oh, well, that's,
But I think that's the nature of, it's at the airport. Riley's are going to be working on the airport. Everybody knows, what everybody else is doing with these projects.
well, since it's all shut down, we're working on it all. It'd be nice to get it all done this
Yep.
year, and I guess moving forward, and like you say, the way things are gonna go, I think our bids will be different than what we've been spoiled with the last 15, 20 years with things coming in, but I think we need to move on it and make some progress. So I will move a resolution accepting a bid and awarding a contract for the airport taxi line reconstruction taxiway crack seal project to Joe Riley Construction as bid.
I'll second.
Okay, we'll do roll call vote with that.
Councilmember Salvi,
Yes.
Wallers,
Yes.
Gullickson,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Mayor Hughes.
Okay, any other questions? Comments, okay? Motion carried. Then we'll move on to the resolution authorizing advertising for bids for this East Sixth Street, North Columbia Avenue, and North Iowa Avenue project, improvement project.
Yeah, and I think, Councilmember Wallers brought up a question when we were coming in about whether or not, you know, that you actually review the plans and specifications, and technically that really doesn't happen. If you want the engineer to come and talk to you about exactly what's in there, we can certainly do that in the future. I think in the past that maybe has happened, but I can tell you that in this project, it's kind of unique in that it's really 3 separate projects wrapped into one, because you have the East Sixth Street is kind of your normal assessment project. Iowa Avenue is kind of an odd duck in that, you know, there's a sewer out there that runs along that road, but there's no curb and gutter, and there's no storm sewer. There's a road base and a road construction there. And then you have Columbia Avenue, and Columbia Avenue is a state aid road, and that's really the reason why, you know, we're kind of getting this at the last minute, you know, in terms of when we normally bid, because that has to go through a state review process, because they're going to be putting money into this project. And I think somebody had mentioned the corner of 7th and Columbia Avenue, where people drive across the corner. You're not going to stop them from doing that. They shouldn't be doing that. There's no room to put in a turn lane there. Oddly enough, on the other side, we identified a problem with the old Bootig store, is what we would call it, because they park next to that building there. And so if you ever drive by there and look, they're parking on the sidewalk area. They're parking on the right-of-way, and actually, in order for them to park there, they're literally hanging their vehicles out across the curb line out into the street. And so I sent a notice to the property owner that they're going to have to quit parking there, you know, because actually what we're going to do is we're going to run a sidewalk and we're going to run curb and gutter along that corner up to the corner, because you have to put in the handicapped accessible accesses. The sidewalks have to be done the right way because it's a state aid road and those kind of things. But other than that, there wasn't anything that really popped up that was odd in the project. It just took more time for state review.
Now, we are doing on 6th Street here, we're doing underground there too, right?
Yeah, we're gonna be doing underground there, you know, and then
Sure.
we'll look at the storm sewer side of that and how we're gonna deal with that.
And the sidewalks we left out, right?
Sidewalks we left out.
Okay, I'm just trying to refresh my memory on that. What was the scope of the work that's gonna get done?
Yeah, and I think the only other thing that came up with that is I think they're gonna go just slightly deeper as the sewer leads up to Columbia Avenue, because there's some really shallow sewers, especially on the south side of 6th Street, up on the hill. Us old people remember the Dragon's house that sits next to the alley. And actually that property's been purchased, and there's gonna be a new duplex that's gonna be built in that property in order to get the right sewer drainage and everything in there. They talked about making sure that the sewer was deep enough to facilitate the connections coming into it, and then there'll be some stub ins we know that there's some sewer that is connected into the alley, and there'll be some stub ins put in, so sometime in the future, if people run into problems, they can bring it into the front if they need to bring it in the front. But that's a pretty straightforward project. And you know, like I said on the other one, we're in a new environment for bidding. It's gonna be very interesting to see, you know, how that affects bids, you know, supply chain issues, being able to get piping and all the fixtures and all that stuff. But it, you know, that's the nature of all their businesses, so in order for them to do business, they need to be able to be providing all those things.
Is there gonna be a narrower street? I can't remember
Just slightly narrower. It's gonna be the standard street that we normally have.
that we have been.
Yep.
going with.
And actually, that's gonna facilitate, the trees that are there. Cause there's some trees that are kinda sucked into the curb now, you know, and rather than take down the trees and stuff, it's really hard to build around a tree if the curb is right next to it. And so that's gonna make it easier. It's just the standard width road, and that's not necessarily a through street. There's a lot of people that, well, nobody drives through there now unless they make a mistake, because the roads are so bad. But it'll be the standard width streets like we did down below the high school.
And I think we discussed if somebody wants their sidewalks replaced on any of this project, they can request to have it replaced and be assessed while we're doing the project, can't they?
No, we decided just not to do sidewalks.
We
So we're
talked
not-
about if
so
somebody
not-
wanted, or we had bad sidewalk, that it could get done
Yeah.
while we were in there, but
Yeah,
I'm just
no.
curious if,
No, we kind of got away from that whole sidewalk concept where, you know, we're doing the sidewalk cutting now and stuff like that.
jacking,
And then
grinding.
on the Columbia Avenue, that they'll be able to, you know, realistically, you know, if we have a really bad sidewalk, you know, we can give notice to the property owner and have them do their sidewalks, but,
There are, I think, a stretch of sidewalks that are, in my opinion, pretty bad
yeah.
there. But the homeowners were here, of course, at the public hearing, and they all spoke very clearly that they didn't want to replace sidewalks, so. But I think if you walk up on that street, I walk by there are some sidewalks that are suspect, but, you know, what can we do, I guess? We can't really force the homeowners to replace them necessarily, but unless they're really bad.
We can give them notice that they have to repair them, or we'll do them, you know, but, you know, the big thing is we didn't put into the plans any kind of sidewalk, bidding to be able to facilitate that. We are gonna be doing some sidewalk work with, some parks, things like that, and, I mean, it's something that the first step would be to identify the ones that, whether it's there or anywhere else in town, that we think should be replaced, and then, give them notice that they have
But
to
Jeff-
replace them.
Jeff brings up a good point, though. I mean, invariably, I can see that happening. You know, they're gonna start seeing some work done here, and they're gonna come, and somebody said owner.
Well, I mean, they can, I mean, one of the
might-
things that I always do, if somebody calls and says, well, actually, I just talked to somebody yesterday that, wanted to know what the timing was on this, because they're gonna have, their sewer done, coming from the street into the house. And so one of the things that we do is, if somebody calls and asks about it, we'll put them in touch with the people that are doing the curb and gutter and the little driveway connections and stuff like that. And they will pick up some extra work, because they will be in the area doing that. But then it's between them and the homeowners. Because you know, the other part of this is that as soon as we get the bid opening, we're probably, and it could be at the same time, we have to do a bond issue to be able to pay for it. And then you might recall that one of the things that we're gonna do as part of that bond issue is pay for the new street sweeper that we're buying. It hasn't been delivered yet, but that'll be part of the bond issue that we do.
You know, along that line, playing with the bonds, you know, we know the market, they just raised some interest rates. I'm assuming that's gonna probably affect our bond rates.
It could, yep.
some, but it's still relatively cheap
Cheap, yeah.
to what it was when we were young whippersnappers.
2% might still be in line, but.
Yeah.
But this is a single bid, it's not three separate.
Nope,
Correct? It's
it's one
it's
project, one
So it's
project,
one
yeah.
all, it's not take this or that, or, yeah.
Right.
Just clarifying, thank you.
And are we ever concerned that the bid may be too high, or is it?
It
not-
could be.
I mean, is there a cap that you go, this might not be worth it
Well-
this year, or not really, because it's so bad?
you know, that's the nature of the beast, is that, you know, what we'll do is when the bid comes in, I've talked to Jeff Kuhn about this, we'll have him recalculate what the estimated assessments are. And then we'll bring that back. We might have to take a look at that and try to figure out what we're gonna do. But, you know, what's the alternative?
Well, yeah.
Is to do nothing, and then that street sits there and it fails, and it's not gonna get any better probably the next year bid-wise. So it's just kind of the nature of where we're at. If we would've done it last year, we probably would've had a lot more issues with supply chain, you know, because of COVID and all that. Maybe not, maybe the bid would have been less, but then we didn't know how people's lives were gonna be as far as jobs and, you know, money and all that kind of stuff.
I think that's the way we left it though, at the end of that public hearing, that we, you know, nothing was 100%.
Right.
We
Yeah,
left
so-
ourselves that opportunity
Yep,
to,
yeah, that's the
Not
next
go
step,
ahead if
find
it's-
out what it's gonna cost, then you
it's
can take a
really
look
crazy.
at, Jeff will be here when that discussion takes place, you know, as far as what it costs. Maybe there's something that can be tweaked in it, you know, to try to make it more desirable.
We decide to go to bids, and hopefully we get at
Yep.
least 2 or 3 competitive bids, and like I said, go forward from there. We won't know unless we go forward and find out, so.
I'll move on that resolution authorizing and advertising for bids for the East Sixth Street, North Columbia and North Iowa Avenue Improvement Project.
I will second.
Okay, any more discussion? All right, then we'll do roll call vote.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Tillotson,
Yes.
Wallers,
Yes.
Salvi,
Yes.
Mayor Heath.
Okay, now we have a resolution ratifying the appointment of Russell Bregeman as Public Works Director.
Yeah, so as you know, Jim Dittbenner is gonna be done as of the 31st. We went ahead and we advertised for applications for the position of Public Works Director. I had a chance to review them, I had a chance to interview applicants and look at, you know, what we needed as a city. And after doing all that, I'm recommending that we appoint Russell Bregeman as the Public Works Director. And as you can see in my memo to you, he originally was working out of the Twin Cities and has a lot of experience working in public works and with utilities, and then decided he didn't want to be in the Twin Cities anymore and wanted to move back out this way. And his wife is from Graceville, and realistically, you know, it's hard to find jobs out here for somebody with experience, and so he took a maintenance position with the city of Morris in order to make that move out here. And then as a few years went on, he was able to secure a job in Clinton, doing all their public works and parks and utilities, and then worked with the city of Dumont doing their public works and their things. And when this job came open, he applied for it, and I had a chance to talk. He knows people that are already working here. You know, he's worked with people that are here, and you know, I think, you know, one of the things that I looked at as a manager is what do we do right now? And one of the things I shared at the end of this memo is that I think we have to take a long, hard look at how we're preparing ourselves for transitions when retirements take place. Everybody winds up doing that. We had a good discussion this morning during the resiliency conference about that. You know, what happens as people get older and start retiring, and how do you transition into leadership positions and things like that. And we've had that discussion with law enforcement and within finance and city administration. And so you're probably going to see a little bit more discussion in the near future, at least for me, on, you know, maybe some ideas on how to transition. One of the things that we are looking at is it's getting harder to find people. It's getting harder to find the skill sets that we're looking for, and in some cases, you know, everybody's kind of seen it. You know, we went through this kind of strange period in the last year and a half with regards to, you know, what's happening with the workforce. A lot of people went out of the workforce. A lot of people didn't come back into the workforce. The workforce changed a bit, but I think this is a good fit for us for the time being, and that's my recommendation, is that we go ahead and appoint Russell. And like I said, he's worked here for a few years and knows Morris, knows the system.
Sounds like a good fit for the position to me.
I would agree. Bring us up to full staff instead of having to replace.
Yeah, yeah, if we, you know, I think the last time we went out and looked for a public works employee, maintenance employee, I think we had 3 applicants. You know, so that's getting even more difficult to find people that want, and you know, it's one of those things where you almost have to try to find people that are interested in that kind of stuff and get them started earlier, like in a part-time spot working for the city, and then they get used to kind of how everything works.
I'm assuming he has all the proper licenses and all of that to be everything to be.
Yeah, he'll be fully qualified to be the Public Works Director. He's working in a smaller city right now that has a lesser requirement for water, wastewater, but he will be able to get the license that we need. But at the same time, since the last time we hired a Public Works Director, we changed our system. So now we have a supervisor for the utility system. And so we turned over responsibilities for operating the water, wastewater system to Ryan Molgard. He's the utility supervisor. And actually, he's in the process of getting another person licensed within that system. So he'll be able to upgrade his license now to the Class B system that we have here versus what he's working with right now in the smaller towns. And at the same time, he's worked with trees. He'll get certified as a tree inspector, and the things that we need there. Yep.
Is there a time frame that gets put on that, or just whenever?
I think the next testing period is this fall for updating license. But you know, and that's one of the things that. That's one of the things that, you know, I was talking about as we move forward, you know, and, Jeff will recall way back when we used to have a separate utility and public works system. So we had a utility superintendent, we had a public works director, superintendent, and they were separate. And then there were 2 foremen within the public works, and there was a foreman within the utilities. And then what happened over the years is we morphed it into one department, and we put everything on the shoulders of one person, Public Works Director. And as time went by and as rules and regulations got more difficult, what we realized was there's probably too much on that one position, and that's why we transitioned into this new arrangement that we have. Like I said, this is a good fit for what we want to do for now, but when we move forward, we may want to look at going back to something like that. We may want to transition to at least one more foreman, supervisor type position within utilities. The other piece of this, I think it's important to understand too, is we have a fleet manager who's really the mechanic that takes care of all the equipment, and then kind of crosses over a little bit into public works, but that position needs to be there, and it needs to be doing those things for us. And to combine them with public works wouldn't have worked. So there's a lot of things that I had to look at behind the scenes as far as what was going to work and what wasn't going to work, and moving forward. But like I said, this is the best fit that I could see for the city at this time.
With the experience and knowledge this gentleman has, he must be like about 70, 75?
Nope. No, he's younger than me.
Okay.
So, no, he's in his 50s.
Well, yeah, it sounds like the experience and the working, he's been with us before, he's been in the big, down in Savage, he's been in the smaller, he's living currently, I think, over in Graceville. So,
Right.
I will move on the appointment of Russ Bregman as our Public Works Director
I'll
to
second.
replace Jim Dittbender.
I'll second.
Any question? I just have one more question about the ratifying process. Again, I know we've talked about this, but we're just basically agreeing with the hire, right?
Right.
Whatever position that is.
Right. Yeah, it's, I reached out to the mayor. It's a very strange process, because, there's no, within the system, within the setup, there's no way for you to know anything other than what the city manager is recommending to you. There's no process to get involved with reviewing applicants. There's no process because ultimately, if you see somebody else that you like, you don't have the ability to pick anybody. It's totally up to the, so it's really a strange process. And so you just kind of, you gotta put it on faith that I'm trying to do the best thing for the city.
It's only for department heads.
It's only for department heads.
And it's really, I think it's just really maybe a last ditch effort if the council really felt it was really the wrong person or something was up or whatever. Other than that, I mean, we're putting our faith in a person that is in charge, and I believe that they should be doing that. So, I mean, we're going by what we're supposed to be going, but I agree
If
with.
we're not happy with his decision, we
Yeah.
don't ratify it. I mean,
Right.
if we don't
Right.
ratify it,
Yeah.
it doesn't happen, correct?
Right.
Right.
And
So, we do have checks and balance.
yeah, and there might be, there might be a case where you personally might have knowledge that it's like, wait a minute, I don't like this selection, I'm not gonna vote for you.
Yeah.
It could be that happens, and at the same time, because I talked a little bit with Sheldon about this, is there a way to maybe get somebody else involved with interviewing people or, process, but it's like you all work together. So to single out one person or two people to try to represent the group in that process, the county has a personnel committee, and that's who takes care of that stuff. And then they get a chance to look at it before it ever comes back, but then it's only the people that are on the personnel committee. It's not the people that's not all the people on there.
Well, we had a similar situation to that when we had the old police commission.
Right,
The police commission vetted the candidates and so forth, and we put our faith in,
Right.
the commission.
I think the biggest thing is if for some reason, you don't like what's going on, or you don't like the selection that was made and it's not working out, then I work for you.
Right.
I mean, that's your ability, is to come back and say, hey, we don't like what you're doing, and deal with that. And that's the way it should be, because that's the system that's in place. But I'm, and I've talked to everybody involved with this, at great length, and, there's certain things that would make it go one way, there's certain things that would make it go another way, and it's just the kind of stuff that you have to sit back and you have to look at and try to figure out what is the best thing to do. Because, I'm not gonna be around forever either. I mean, that's the way it's gonna be. So I'm trying to set us up for success in the near future, but as I said, we've learned, Whitney and I have talked a lot, Reggie and I have talked a lot. We've learned a lot about how we're set up as an organization to be able to transition into new people into the future, because we've had 3 really important retirements happen right away, and hopefully we can, putting Stacy in as the deputy clerk was kind of a no-brainer. you know, because she's been around for a long time and she knows and understands how everything works, but now we gotta try to find somebody to do her job, otherwise she's gonna be really busy.
Well, and
Working
I'm
and
not
stuff.
saying, asking because I don't have faith in what I'm just asking because sometimes it's like I'm ratifying, agreeing with something that I really don't know anything about.
Right,
Which is fine. And in any organization, when you have long-term employees that retire, it does put a whole new spin on, oh my gosh, what are we doing? How are we gonna get, because you have a lot of knowledge going out, many
Right.
years of knowledge going out the door. So, yeah, and you know, your comment about that better preparing ourselves and looking at the process, you mentioned that, and
Yeah.
maybe there are some, I know we've talked about that before a while back, but is there another, or an added process would be helpful? I don't know, that maybe is a
You know,
discussion to have.
and so I'll just throw this out as kind of in order for you to sit down and be part of this process, you have to meet in an open meeting.
Right.
You know, and it's really difficult to sit down in an open meeting and interview candidates, to sit down in an open meeting and discuss and debate, you know, what it is you like about them and who. I mean, I would love to be able to do that, but everything you do has to be in an open meeting, and that gets very difficult. And that's the plus side of having the system that we have, is that we can do a lot of discussion. I can do a lot of discussion and stuff about kind of important things in the background before it ever comes to you. And the hardest thing for me to do as a city manager is be able to provide you the information as soon as I can, as detailed as I can, you know. And so that's why I started the whole newsletter when I first started here. It's like, how do I keep you informed of things that are going on that maybe you're going to want to know about ahead of time? You know, so then I like to throw things out ahead of time before it ever comes to the table as a action item. And then, you know, actually one of the things I will tell you is that we kind of got stuck with, because we have 3 Tuesdays in this month, which means the next meeting is not for a couple more weeks. And that makes a big difference when we're trying to get things put on the table that we need to get acted on in a timely manner. So, you know, part of this decision is to let the individual know so that he can give notice and then be able to get in here and start working in a timely manner. And we still have to do a background check, which I don't see that there's any issues that are gonna come up, because he actually worked for us before, you know, and we kind of know where he came from and where he went. But if we can, I'd love to do that. I'd love to be able to, you know, because I have a good council that is very thoughtful and likes to look at the information and make good decisions. And sometimes our hands are tied in how we can do that, you know, just based upon rules like the open meeting law.
And with the open meeting and the media sources, if somebody's looking to better themselves in interview, you can interview
Right.
in the privacy without their employer finding out, where if it's before us all, before the media, you're looking to better yourself somewhere else, your employer finds out, are they gonna get a bent nose? I mean, I've had friends who have lost their jobs because their employers found out that somebody went and interviewed somewhere. Well,
Right.
is that right? No, it's not, because you're trying to better yourself. So I could see that part of it too,
Yeah.
for somebody to having the privacy until it's official or something happens.
Yep.
Well, I can see if we all had to meet together, yeah, that would though, but when you have like a small personnel committee, you don't, I mean, the schools districts don't have their personnel committee.
Technically, they're all, you know, even like the tree board, the tourism board, technically, they're all committees, boards of the city, and the open meeting laws apply to all of them, which is something that we just talked about, because the tourism board's basically been meeting by Zoom, and the state and the league have provided a lot of information about these meetings, and because there's a lot of communities that like them, you know, and it'd be kind of nice, you know, especially if somebody's going to be out of town or whatever, and they're trying to be very careful on how they deal with that, because state laws haven't really changed, but you know, that we know and understand that very rarely do we have somebody show up to a committee meeting, you know, or a tourism meeting, or, you know, even a planning commission meeting? Yeah, if we have a public hearing and notice has been given, but that's the law, that's the way it works.
Okay, so we did get a motion and a second on
Yep.
this, so, and we have talked about it, so no other questions, we'll do roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Gullikson,
Yes.
Millard,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
Waller,
Yes.
Mayor Keith.
Okay, city managers reports.
Just a couple things I would throw in there. Councilmember Wallers was part of the resilience planning session. It was awesome. This morning it was really, really good. There's a lot of local people were there that should have been there, and you know, we had a really good facilitation team that was there and facilitated, and we got a big chance to look at everything. The one takeaway, and I'll just ask you if you have a takeaway, but the one takeaway I had that I don't know how we get to this, and it was one of my big comments. You've heard me talk about communication. Morris is a very unique. Stevens County is a very unique area because we have some definite differences of opinion when it comes to some of the key issues that we wind up dealing with, whether it's climate or looking at things like even things like when we went through COVID with masks and vaccinations and all those kind of things. But we don't have a really good way of, you know, my comment is that we're civil about it. We don't see people fighting and shooting each other and stuff over political divide and stuff like that. But we also don't have the ability to get the different opinions to the table to talk. You know, because depending on who calls a meeting will dictate whether or not you're going to show up at it. You know, if the university calls a meeting, more than likely there's a lot of people aren't going to show. If if it's well, we know that here. If we call meetings, it's really hard to get people to come to meetings because of communication, and so it's very important that as we look at some of these key issues, and we're looking at everything from housing to childcare to workforce development to, you know, what happens in a natural disaster, you know, like a tornado or windstorms or, you know, over the road flooding. You know, we know that we've dealt with some snow this winter and stuff like that. But what's the best way to approach it? And I think that was a very good discussion this morning and trying to figure out some answers. So I don't know if.
Well, yeah, you know, Glenn, you already touched on it with regards to the transitioning period from the various positions that everybody occupies within the city, and, you know, even on all these committees. You know, we have Margaret Kuchenraber, just for an example. She's the chair of the planning commission and has been such for a long time. And, you know, she's going to probably be retiring in the very near future. And Sue Granger, she's been, I mean, very involved in the tree board, and you know, those types of leaders, when they step aside, you know, we need to start preparing ourselves for that. So this next generation, that somebody's going to have to step in and take on those responsibilities. And, you know, that was really my big eye opener today was, wow, you know, we've put a lot of, you know, there's been a lot of people that have put a lot of time and effort into all these various projects that go on, and we certainly can't let that die. You know, so it's something we need to be thinking about and planning for as a community, and hopefully we can get some hard chargers. You know, like Sid Bauer, just for example. You know, she's digging in there and getting that organic you know, waste management program off the ground, and, you know, people like her that want to be involved, and that's it's going to be an issue we're going to have to deal with as a community. So that was kind of my big takeaway.
Yeah, and then just on the newsletter, I had put a note in there. You know, we had that question came up in the annexation when we were talking about setting the public hearing, and one of the things I did do is I sent a letter to document with the Michelsons that they do not have to worry about their business being taken away from them, because it's grandfathered in under they are under our control, they have been under our control ever since the city received the authority to control all the property within a certain area in the city and around the city. But you know, they can sell it, they can transfer it, they can. It's not that's not the reason why it came up. You know, and so now they have a letter from me as city manager that documented it, and they can hang on to that. One other thing is, I think we found a replacement for Chris Watkins, and actually it's going to be a university student that's graduating, that's been working on sustainability ever since high school. And so then I'm just kind of putting that together right now, and we're doing the paperwork and the background check, and I think he'll do a very good job filling in for that position and moving forward, working with the Morris model. And other than that, you know, we're just busy working on spring stuff and trying to get ready for the summer.
The park equipment, Blaine, this is not really on the newsletter at all, but I know we ordered new park equipment for East Side Park. Is that here?
Not yet. It'll be coming in, but when it comes in, they'll put it up. And the only thing was, because of supply chain issues, one of the swings wasn't going to come right away. And so once that comes, then they'll come back and put that in.
Okay.
But yeah, that'll be coming. That's all set up and ready to go. It's all the area is all prepped, you know, and ready for that. So that should be pretty good. Any other questions?
Do we normally do a spring roundup, just checking with things laying around in yards? I've had a few people questioning me on just the vehicles, dilapidated vehicles sitting around. Is that normally something we do in the spring, or is that just a routinely to take a?
It's not necessarily routine. You know, the last 2 years have been really kind of out of the ordinary with COVID and stuff like that, just trying to stay away from everybody. But no, normally what happens is people will call. I've had some calls already from people that are concerned about some garbage and stuff, and I talked to a couple of the landlords, and they're taking care of the issues. But yeah, you know, we noticed there was a lot of snow this year, and underneath that snow is a lot of garbage, you know, and so, but it's something that we'll continue to look at, but that's a good idea.
Yeah, just to mention, if your weekly updates are in your radio or your paper, to have everybody, we just were on the road for a few days and just coming home, and some communities look so nice, and then some of the communities we went through looked like a bomb had went off or a tornado had went through. I mean, it just sets your tone for your community on what it looks like as you're passing through. Of gosh, nice town. I'd like to potentially look into it. It's like, oh my God, you know. Could you imagine coming home to this every night?
Yeah.
So I mean, just the little things we can do with, and I've told people too, if they have issues, to call City Hall.
Right. Yep.
And that's the best to get things started. And if things don't happen, then to contact us again. But just.
Right. Yeah, I can write something up for the paper too. Actually, at the we did community connection, and one of the things I mentioned is, you know, April 1st you have to turn your sump pumps outside. You can't keep them inside, and we'll post that now on our city website and make sure people understand that, because they're seeing a lot of flow now through the sewer plant because of all the water. It melted pretty quick here, that snow cover.
It's still gonna be relatively cool for the next 10 days at night, though, so I mean, and that might take us into April 1st, but.
Yeah, what you just don't want now is you don't want a heavy rain cycle coming in, you know, let things dry out a little bit. But yeah, that's a good idea.
Speaking of dilapidated, the Morris Floral Building, was that gonna get boarded up? soon?
They're gonna be boarding that up. Actually, I stopped by there because apparently there's people that are salvaging stuff out of there.
Why?
So I don't know, and it's like, it's still owned by Mr. Melberg, and I talked to the potential new owner that has not closed yet. I think the environmental assessments have been done in that property, but yeah, they're
I
gonna
mean,
be,
wasn't there a timeframe
Yep,
when you said?
last Friday. Yep.
Okay, so that should be boarded up.
Yep.
Cause yeah, there's stuff going out of there all the time.
Yeah, there's actually,
Lot of stuff
I was
going on.
standing there talking to one of the people that was, bringing stuff out, and we have no authority to, I mean,
Well, no.
to arrest people, it's not our building, but there's a dead bat laying on the sidewalk, and somebody said there's a dead cat on the inside of the building, and stuff like that, and, but I did talk to Public Works about, gathering up materials and start boarding that up, and the one door, somebody said the door was gone, garage door, but it's not. It's just stuck open, so they could probably just take it off its hinges and then board it up somehow up against there. But the plan is to ultimately tear it down. The last word I had from the potential owner was that they're waiting on the environmental assessment. Apparently the underground tank issue was okay. But then they were checking for asbestos in the building. And the last word I had was, it didn't sound like there's a lot of asbestos in the building. And then, cause the new owner was waiting to close on the sale, until they found out what was going on with that. You know, and that's another one of those things where, you know, that information is confidential because they don't want anybody to know who they are and what they're doing. And in the background, you know, we're talking about potential, plans for that area and potential financing tools and stuff like that. But yeah, I was totally shocked when I drove by there, and I'm not gonna tell you who it was, but it's somebody I know very well, and it's like, what are you guys doing in here? You know, and it's like, they're grabbing cast iron. There's a lot of stuff in there, cast iron and copper pipes that were laying around and stuff like that. So I don't know who gave them the authority to do it, but I didn't want to stop them.
Informational items, you see the Organics County newsletter, that was kinda nice.
Yeah, and just one quick note, we got set up in City Hall to do organic collection, but I noticed they didn't come and get our little roll-off deal. So everybody has the blue recycling containers at their house. If you drive by City Hall, we have a green organic recycling container, and we got set up inside, so we have containers where we can put stuff in, and actually I've started doing it at home, and I've already dropped off 2 bags into the City Hall one to get rid of it, and so
That's where we're supposed to bring it down to City Hall?
well, if you want to, you can. If you want to do it, I'll show you what I'm doing. And
What's his car look like?
yeah, I went over to Willie's and I got some bags, and I have a little 5-gallon bucket with a lid on it, and you'd be amazed at, you know, like you wipe up some food waste with a paper towel, you put it in the organic container instead of your garbage can, because that can be composted, you know, and you know, the pizza box half that's got oil on it, that can go on the organic side, and the other half can go on the recycling. You know, there's little things like that. But Sid did a very good job of coming over and kind of explaining what was happening and getting us set up and providing us with, the next time we have, probably the next time we have something in here with food, we actually got some forks, knives, and spoons that are all organic, recyclable materials like the university uses.
Cool.
Connections?
I got my organics man, that takes all of our organics. Doing it for a while.
That's good, that's
Yeah.
good, small steps.
Yeah, so that's going good.
Okay. Anything else anybody have?
Yeah, we, just a reminder, we have the Board of Equalization on April 4th. We'll have that before our next meeting, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Wasn't there a reminder?
Yeah.
April 4th at
Yeah, good
5:15.
call.
That's Monday. And our meeting is
A week
until,
from this
We-
Monday.
yeah, yeah, it's April 4th. It's
Yeah, I
on
remember
Monday.
forgot
Send
all
us
about
a
that.
reminder, maybe that Friday before, just please,
Yeah, that would be nice.
via
I don't
text
wanna be the only one sitting
on the
here.
phones instead of,
I can do that.
Oh, come on, you can do it. You can handle it all.
Okay,
You're
thanks,
the only one
Joe.
ready for it.
Good reminder.
All right,
Okay, anything else? And we'll adjourn.
job.
sounds good.